Again, this is a collegial conversation for SCUDEM student team members and coaches. And we have a few students and a coach with us, but this video will be placed online so that you can see it and benefit from the conversation. I'm Brian Winkel. I'm the director of SIMIODE, and my colleague is going to introduce himself. Anthony?
Yes, I'm Anthony Stefan. I am a graduate student at Florida Institute of Technology. I just earned my master's degree last May, but I participated in SCUDEM a handful of times, probably about, I believe 4 times, once as a student, another as a judge, and twice as a coach. So
there you go.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, so just a word, SIMIODE is a community of practice for teachers. It's basically a set of resources and conversations and forums for people who want to teach and learn differential equations using modeling. And that's where the core values of this SIMIODE challenge using differential equation modeling, or so-called SCUDEM, comes from. The conversation we're going to have today is an overview of SCUDEM, some resources available, the role of the student team member, the role of the coach, preparation before the challenge itself, the challenge period itself, where we can find information about the results from previous ones and all of the statements of the problems and the student submissions, and essentially satisfaction in doing this. This is a open and encouraging activity for students in high schools or in undergraduate levels or in homeschooling. All the SCUDEM materials that we're going to refer to today can be found at the website. And if you just type in SCUDEM, you'll get to it without any trouble. There are lots of pointers to it. Okay. Much of the material that we're going to look at today for coaches and students was prepared by Anthony and William Clark, who was an undergraduate student at Delta Dixie State in Utah. They had an internship with us and they prepared materials from the student point of view, and that's very good for you folks to read. So this is the main overall overview page that we're referring to, and there's lots to look at here, namely how to register, a little overview, what were last year's presentations, the videos that were there, details about all of our past competitions, the rules, ways to apply as a coach or a judge. You can be a judge and a coach. We obviously will put you with a different team. Everything is collegial here. This is not really a competition as much as it is a challenge and a growth opportunity. Okay, so again, it consists of 3 students at the undergraduate, homeschool, or high school. A mix is okay, or all of one kind. 3 of these students, they can register as a team with a coach or without a coach. They can register individually, and we will assemble a team and try to assign them a coach and adjust that if there's an uncomfortable level due to geography or some other issues. The basic challenge is the teams will pick one of 3 problems, and we can take a look at the past problems, and you can look at them as well. One is from so-called physics engineering. One is from chemistry, life science. And one is from social science, humanities. You might not think there's much in humanities, but if you just think about the linguistics and how we communicate and the data on words coming in and out of language, that's just a classical example of how things change. The goal is to develop a model using a differential or a difference equation and a 10-minute video presentation addressing that model. The challenge period where the student teams are actually working on this runs from the 23rd of October to the midnight of the 14th of November this year. And we don't want students working excessively on this project. They have academic life, they have a social life, they may even have a romance life, okay? So we want not to ruin any of that, but at a reasonable pace with your colleagues. And Anthony will talk a little bit about some of the meetings you might want to have. What it does is each team produces a 10-minute video. It gets reviewed by at least 3 judges. Last year, each team got on average 8 judges' reports. Now, some judges simply said it was very nice, and other judges gave 10-page reports saying at minute 307, you said this, and you should cross this T and dot this I, because the judges have their own personalities. But to get 8 feedbacks on a model that you've done with colleagues, I think is a good, rich support for your growth. The teams can meet remotely. Quite obviously, that's what we're doing, but they can also meet in person if they're at the same school. And the team videos will be judged outstanding, meritorious, or successful. And we have certificates that are PDFs that we award people. And you can put them up on your departmental bulletin boards or your dorm room, or send them home to Aunt Louise, who's always sending you cookies while you're at college. So that's kind of like the bottom line. I'll talk here a little bit about resources before I turn it over to Anthony. We have a guide for coaches and students, and this is, again, all on that overview page. And Anthony and William prepared this, and Anthony will talk a little bit more about this, but this is the essence of what you ought to be thinking about and some helpful hints. Okay, so, and we have something about the student benefits and general comments, student support materials. Usually the author of the problems gives some comments after the event. We have not done that last year, but in the past, and that gives you some ideas what the author of the problem was thinking when he, in this case a male, decided to use this as one of our 3 problems. But the author is not the judge. The judges are independent faculty and university and industrial mathematicians or industrial scientists who, just like when you do a science fair in high school, you get people from the community who want to judge. We get people who want to do that, and some of them provide some of the more meaningful things. We'll talk a little bit about the rules, and we'll talk about how we had a study that demonstrated when you do modeling, you gain confidence in do modeling. It's kind of a duh, but it is nice to verify that through a formal study. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Anthony. Anthony doesn't have control, I don't think, of these things, but I'm going to open this up, Anthony, and then you can add your comments.
This is great.
Okay.
Absolutely. So all of those resources Brian mentioned are fantastic resources. Obviously, the SCUDEM webpage is also a fantastic resource. But from a student perspective, looking at this modeling guide, we wrote this to not only help students understand what would be the ideal presentation to give, and as much as the best type of approach that you could join or to create a good model. We wrote this saying, first, get your assumptions down for your model, and then look at how we actually want to try to model it. Talk about the accuracy of your model, the limitations of your model, and the future directions, and then obviously provide your resources or works cited page. So this document provides to a student what you should be submitting. And then from a kind of a coach's perspective, a younger coach in modeling differential equations, perhaps a first year professor or a postdoc, can look at this and understand what the student should be expected to submit to the competition or to the challenge. And then just going back to the slides here on the presentation, okay. Another great resource for students is the SIMIODE YouTube channel. So the SIMIODE YouTube channel has the competition results for SCUDEM. So as you can see, if you're looking for this, and you're still paying for electricity, then you could be missing out on. So first, you want to recognize that this is a SIMIODE YouTube webpage, not SCUDEM. And so when you get here, you can actually view a problem statement that was done in the past, and then you can actually see the students' presentations that they gave. All of these ones that are on this YouTube webpage, the YouTube website, these presentations received outstanding distinction. So that means that they are good ones to learn a lot from. And then also back onto the presentation here, the slides, just generally, there's two other types of advice that I recommend for students prior to the challenge period. The one is to get a strategy to organize how you're going to go about just organizing the way that you will attack the problem. I'm not talking about actual modeling or any mathematics here. I'm only just talking about what time is everyone available to meet during the challenge period? What's everyone's schedule look like? Is there a day where we're going to knock it out all on the first weekend? If so, maybe we could grab some funds to get some pizza delivered or something like that, right? And I really suggest to communicate this with your coach, because the coach might be able to provide to you a room available for you to work in with wipe-off boards and other resources. And then also, if you're online, still also talk to your coach, because they might be able to assist you in saying, okay, well, maybe you want to do this presentation online using Zoom, but then also the presentation itself, they might be able to suggest other type of resources or presentation software packages and stuff to help your group present a great presentation for the challenge period. There is another online document called resources. It's called, on the SIMIODE website, you'll find a document called SCUDEM resources. And it gives you a great list of other type of presentation and also mathematical packages and available ones that are available online to give a good presentation, such as LaTeX, Overleaf Editor. I believe that there is also other great packages for modeling and approximation to it, such as GeoGebra, I believe. But that's your strategy to organize. And then the next one is a strategy to model. So now I'm talking about the math and the math that you're going to be doing during that time. If everyone is a physics major, then perhaps everyone should, or you guys should focus on attacking the physics problem. But of course, if you get the problems released and the physics one seems just really difficult to tackle, and the chemistry and the life science one seems really easy to everyone, then I would go with the one that the entire team feels the most comfortable with. But then what the big way to strategize your modeling here is if one student is really good at the mathematics and another one has a better intuition on the physical model, then I would allow those students, or the students can maybe come to an agreement to say, okay, you do the math and we'll check it, and I'll take care of making sure that there's good intuition on the physics. The same thing works with more presentation skills. If one student can make the presentation, then we'll let that student work on that, and we won't, that way we're not wasting time in any area, and we're able to actually finish this challenge and give a good presentation. And then that's this last strategy to present. There's many different types of resources available online, free and not free, but just generally pick one that you guys are the most skilled in presenting in. And I believe that's all I have from a student perspective.
Okay, well, thank you, Anthony. That's if people have questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can ask now. If not, we can go on. One of the things that you should do as a student team members, you need to be respectful and be sensitive to colleagues' contributions. It's sometimes difficult to do online because eye contact isn't there. You don't have a whiteboard where you and I might be able to share an equation and correct a variable. So just being sensitive to people and their response rate, and appreciating them for what they bring to the team. And be considerate to time zone issues. Don't just think Eastern Standard Time like I'm doing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and Padma is 1:45 in the morning in India. So discuss their individual strengths. Incidentally, it may be, we had a problem on the social science modeling, and it was to model the high school lunch table. You know, when you go to high school, you kind of sit with your friends around the lunch table, and how did that kind of a grouping, and how does it change, and what are the variables that cause it to change? And we had a team of 3 students who never went to high school. They were all homeschooled, and they picked the problem on the high school lunchroom, and just did a wonderful job. We've had teams that didn't know about the subject at all, but they dove in, and it proved to be a multiple learning experience. Anthony and his 2 colleagues did work on neural perception models for a biology predator-prey model that said, when does the prey decide to jump, you know, as a shark is coming at them? And I don't think any of them thought they'd be into that neural type of stuff. I mean, Anthony can speak to that if he wants.
Absolutely. I mean, it was also just the experience to learn more about, you know, predator prey. Like this is another instance where we chose that model, and I'm more math. I was the mathematician of the group, and my colleagues were of very diverse backgrounds in biochem and chemistry. So they loved it and they wanted to dive into it. And I'm like, oh, I'm a mathematician. I don't know if I could do this, but we ended up having great intuition on the model, and I learned a tremendous amount.
Yeah. So there are going to be things, and as you look past the past year's problems, you're going to see some rather wide-ranging things. Last year's problem had, how do we set disputes in refugee camps in Rwanda? In other words, how do the different cultures evolve and come up with a settlement of disputes when one has a more rigid code that they bring with their culture into the refugee camp, and another one is a more parsimonious and let's just talk about things. And people who did that were not social science majors, but if you look at the videos, you'll see that they really dug in and really enjoyed what they were doing, okay? So another thing is, pick one problem soon and stick with it. Don't keep 3 of the problems running thinking, well, we'll eventually see what we can do. You want to really dive in. And it doesn't mean within an hour, maybe within a day or 2, you settle on one, you go after it. And unless you hit some impasse to cause you to change, you kind of stick with it. Also set some reasonable hours. You know, you don't want to be spending 20 hours a week on this kind of stuff. That's like half time. That's just too much. Also assign tasks and be accountable. So if you agree that you're going to figure out the best way to use PowerPoint, or maybe you're going to figure out how to use Beamer in LaTeX and make a sort of a framework slide, then do that and do it on time so your colleagues can count on you. Gather and document the source information that you have so you can provide solid references. Leave time for writing in the video production. And just don't go right up to midnight and say, well, that night we'll produce the video. That's not a good idea. Practice the video so that you can handle transitions and handoffs. Use clear titles. Everybody knows from 7th grade on, you need to label your plots. Don't use a lot of text, you know, just use pictures quite often, and practice and edit your videos. Okay, for the coach, we again refer to that same guide, and Yunsha is a coach, and he's asking about working with a high school team. Anthony and his colleagues published a paper. This is interesting for students. In other words, you can give talks about your experience in SCUDEM at regional or national meetings in your home region. And also, they published a paper in the Rose-Hulman Undergraduate Math Journal from an institution in the United States. And that paper is referenced, and you can look and see. And in that paper, Anthony and his 2 colleagues describe both how they went about it and the technical details of this predator-prey model, which is remarkable. In fact, it was so remarkable. Go ahead.
Yeah, and something I want to add is the guide matches up directly with that paper. So if you just Google this, you can, like Brian is saying, see our perspective, our model, and our experience, but you can also see how the modeling guide on the SIMIODE website directly relates to this presentation that we gave.
Yeah, and other thing is that I invited them to give a presentation at a national math meeting. It doesn't have to be at a national meeting, it could be at a regional, but it's good as students to get some of these things under your belt, and also to get them on your resume if your work experience is where you're headed, or if you're going to graduate school. And it just shows a sign of interest, excitement, and activity, okay? Anthony wants to say something about how often you should meet.
That's right. So for the coach here, I really encourage to meet twice prior to the modeling challenge period. And the reason why is you get once just for everyone to meet with each other, exchange information, learn about each other, right? So learn, what are you studying? What are you doing? What, you know, and that way the students kind of all have one general place to meet. And that's not just in person, that's also on Zoom, perhaps if everyone is not in the same location. So then the second one prior to that is to go over some modeling problems. And I highly suggest that in that time period of, let's say you meet with them an hour, go over each different type of modeling scenario. So one from the physics, one from the life science, and one from the social sciences. And then that way everyone can kind of get a general idea of how do we attack a problem or build an ODE or some type of differential equation that models this. And what do we kind of, what's a way that we can try to solve the ODE? And so that's more of a mathematical meeting. And then the once after, Brian just taught me this term, the AAR is the after action report. Coaches, this has got to be one of the most important meetings in my personal opinion. It's once the students get back their results and they get back their judges' commentary, I encourage the coaches to say, everyone look this over and let's have another meeting. Maybe if you're in the same location, meet and have dinner or you know, order some pizza and just kind of go over what the judges have mentioned to them. This is probably also another opportunity for the coach to see their model or see your student's model and say, okay, maybe this is how I would have done that, you know, or give them feedback on just general presentation that of what they submitted in their 10-minute video. Let's watch the 10-minute video, you know, and pause it intermittently to describe, oh, this is, you know, this is how you can improve here or there.
Okay, so lots of opportunities to learn. What are the role of the coach? Well, we outline some of them here, and we talk about the things that coaches can do. We do have an integrity statement during the time that the students, we call it the challenge period. Once the problems are released until the students submit a solution, we ask them not to talk with other people about the modeling itself. Sometimes you have a technical question that you might want to ask the coach that has nothing to do with the modeling. It's like, you know, where's the card file in the library? Or, you know, I can't find a LaTeX something or other or whatever. But we ask the coaches to just leave the students alone. This is their challenge. They will excel, and there's no need to intervene. Hopefully you've met with them a little bit, and Padma asked about when are we going to assign the teams, and the answer is next week, so that you'll have several weeks in which you can meet with a coach. And they're more than welcome to, the coaches that is more than welcome to help them before the challenge begins. But during we ask them not to do that. I have coached student modeling competitions where we had a room dedicated to that. And I always tell my colleagues, every once in a while, I open up the door and I throw in a bag of M&Ms and then I shut the door. Or I order in some hamburgers or some salads or something. And
as long as the modeling problem is not on M&Ms, you're okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, and it doesn't hurt for coaches to say, okay, how are things going? You just generically speaking, and, you know, if they seem to have an obstacle, maybe it's a personality obstacle. Maybe the coach can help them with that by saying, well, you know, maybe just by listening, you might get a better sense about how you're doing. So stay away from the technical stuff. Let the students to develop that. Remember, this is not a competition for a $50,000 Intel scholarship. This is not a competition at all. It's a chance for faculty to help students grow, not to do their work for them, okay?
Something that I would like to add on that is typically just after a few days of them getting the problem statement, I send just a text or an email to the students that I'm coaching, and I say, is there any resources that I can make available for you, such as a room for the presentation, or do you need a projector? You know, do you need anything that is administrative like that? And without helping them at all with the model or anything like that, if there are any serious issues with the students, they'll let you know, you know? And so that it's kind of killing two birds with one stone, where you can help them out with resources simultaneously, check up on them, you know, and give them a pep talk. That's my advice.
So all of these, anything that's in bold and blue on, and I'll put these slides up at the same place we put the notion about the video, but anything that's in bold and blue is hot linked. So for example, this is the page that has all the previous problems from 2017 up until last year. It has information, it has the results, the student results, it has the statement of the problem. So you can look over years worth of this and see the various kinds of problems. So each year we had 3 kinds of problems. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's probably 18 problems that are out there that you could try for practicing before you get into the challenge period, and see how your group would come up with ideas, and then check to see what other groups did. And one of the things you'll find is that we maybe have last year 27 outstanding teams. And the statistics on what percentage are outstanding and all of that, that's online for you to look at as well. But the 27 teams, if you divide by 3, that says we've got about 9 videos. There's probably 9 different approaches to modeling that in those 9 presentations. And so what you're going to do is you might practice, you know, brainstorming one of those models, and then look at those few of those 9 videos and you go, wow, look at all the different approaches. That should widen your horizon so that when you're tackling a problem, there's just not one way to do it. There are many, many, many ways, okay? This is, as Anthony would say, this is team meeting software, how you might do it. There's anything from Jitsi to, of course, Zoom, which has become the coin of the realm. But you can look at these in Skype and Google Meet. So feel free to do that. There's some more resources. We put the results up. You can see all of the videos, all 27 of the outstanding videos from SIMIODE YouTube channel. Incidentally, not every team actually completed a video. Last year was, as you well know, was quite hectic. And so students thought they could do that, but it just proved to be too much, either scheduling, mathematics. But of those teams that did it, 27 of them did exceptionally well, at least by the judges' standards. And as I said, each team got about 8 judges' reports. The certificates that we issue look something like this. This is last year's certificate. And as I said, they would have your name and your coach, excuse me. They would list either the outstanding or or the meritorious or the successful award. Anyone who submits a video automatically has a successful award because they successfully built a model. And then it goes up to meritorious and outstanding. So that's in the offing. And there's a satisfaction, and you grow professionally when you try your hand and learn to work with teams. If you're going to go to work in industry, nobody works alone. Everybody's on a team. If you're going to go into academe, while you do things on your own, you're usually working with fellow grad students on anything from research and so forth. So this is our final slide, and this is a little play on words about differential equations versus deferential. And these are all differential equations who are saying, no, 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 after you, after you, after you. So that's the end of our formal presentation. And we would love to have questions from you now or comments. And I will look and see in the chat. Let's see. Okay, we have some questions.
Also, just generally, there's two places that you can receive some information about the challenge period, SCUDEM and SIMIODE in general, and that is the SCUDEM email release a platform. I don't know, I guess, Brian, you normally release emails of the problem statement when it's released and when you can begin. However, also, I just want to bring to everyone's attention that SIMIODE and SCUDEM are both on Facebook, so you can go to the SCUDEM Facebook webpage and join that group. It's a great place to get information about the entire challenge period and to stay updated with SCUDEM and questions that are asked on the forum.
Okay, so Yunsha is asking, when someone registers as a coach, can that person register as a referee or judge? And the answer is absolutely. We have people who register just to be a judge. You know, they're not sure they want to coach a team, although some, after their 1 year, actually sign up to coach, and they say, yeah, this will be fun. But you could be just a coach. You could also be just a judge. You could be a coach and then say, I'd like to judge other students' work. Again, this is not competitive, so no one is harming any other team so that their team has an advantage. And we would not assign you your own team to judge. And you could get to look at other students' work shortly thereafter. And of course, once we publish the outstanding ones, everybody can look at those as well. So any other questions? No? Well, I thank you for joining us, especially Padma, who's very late in the morning. And we will see you. We will see you through the competition. Yunshai, did you have a comment or?
Yeah, I have a question. If during the challenging time, if the coach find out the student making some fundamental mistake, can the coach point them out? So
look, my philosophy is just completely stay hands off. We can't monitor what you do. And so it's really an ethical judgment call. But I would say, you know, you don't want to intervene with any modeling or mathematical question at all. If they are reaching a roadblock, they cannot do something, you probably could give them some generic advice, like maybe just stop, take the night off. You just put it away for a while. I mean, that kind of advice I think is very good. Or maybe give them some advice like, why don't you each separately write down why you feel the way you feel about this, and then have them come together. But I wouldn't step in and say, look, you're doing a differential equation. It's much easier to do a difference equation. Stop, you know, that's too technical, I think. Let them discover that. Yeah, and even that issue I just rose about differential versus difference, or PDEs versus ODEs, just saying to them, well, look, there are other ways to look at a problem. You know, just reminding them that they don't have to stay in that rut that they're in, because that's what can happen to them. They can get they can go down a road and they reach a roadblock and they think the only way is to overcome that roadblock on that road. And the answer is no, you can come back and make a right turn.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. Can
Something
you
else
point
that
out?
I would
Okay.
Anthony, go ahead.
just something that I would add to that as well is after 3 weeks of hard work where you feel so confident and right, you know, that you feel like you did a great job and all that as a student, and then you get feedback from 8 judges about that this could be articulated in a different manner, or that, you know, this was not the right approach. That brings more merit than maybe my advisor telling me that I did that wrong, right? So it's really good to have feedback from other professors on your modeling approach or mathematical skills in general. So I encourage that.
Okay. Just another question. Is it okay for the coach point out some resources? You know, like say maybe during the challenging time, the coach say, maybe you can find this link would useful, that, you know, video may be helpful. Is that okay?
Yeah, again, you know, that's getting closer to the technical details. I would say to them, and as I said, we're not there to monitor you or any other coach, and we understand the joy in working with young students and helping them grow, and that you know, I would say the temptation of doing too much, but when in doubt, back off. But you know, if there is something, and by the way, these kids, you know, I have no idea what your age is. My age is 79, but I know that these kids are much better at finding resources than I will ever be. And so giving them a suggestion that says, you know, maybe you might look on YouTube. You know, by the way, they're going to look at you and go, no, I'm going to Instagram, you know, but in either case, giving them a suggestion that you might look on YouTube for something without telling them what specific it is probably enough to get them to the same thing that you got to. And you will feel good that you pushed them, but you didn't, you know, do the work for them. You know, if they say to you, is this video that I found valid or anything, I would say, well, that's up to you to decide, you know, to my students. So the whole goal is, if you think you're going to jump in and begin to do too much, don't. So,
okay, I agree. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I thank you, because it is quite natural. I mean, we got in this profession to teach and work with these bright young people, and we want to share the joy as well. And so it's too tempting sometimes. And I would say just err on the side of staying away.
Okay.
But by all means, bring resources. By that, I mean some goodies every once in a while. And of course, if you're working at a distance, what I tend to do is I like to send cartoons to people. So if I find cartoons online that will give them a chuckle, by all means, you know, send them some of those, especially if you're working remote. You know, you can't go and deliver them cookies. Okay. But, you know, something to lighten their day, and or a video that's not offensive or something that's kind of light, a comedy video about some math, you know, learning experience that you found quite funny and might be a distraction. But you should know that if you send students to YouTube, they will spend an hour there when they maybe don't have the time, because you all know that if you go to YouTube, you look at one more and just one more and one more, and you got to be careful of that.
The opportunity for you as a coach to be able to influence their model and discuss with them about how they can improve it is after the competition, having a follow-up after action report.
Yeah,
that's the best time to do it, and really spend some time. And I take that meeting serious, you know.
Okay.
Plus, you'll have all these coaches' feedback, you know, to look at, and they'll say, what does that comment mean? You know, the coach might offer a very technical comment that they're just not aware of, or the coach may say, that's totally wrong. The coach, I mean, I'm sorry, the judge could say that's totally wrong, and the judge could be wrong. You know, I mean, he or she misunderstood something, in which case a discussion based on, well, is it right or is it wrong? And the answer is it's right mathematically, but it probably isn't the best approach to do the model, you know. So
Okay.
yeah, there'll be lots of times for growth and understanding. Okay. Any other questions? No, if not, I'm going to close this out, and I'll spend some time later today posting by tomorrow this video and an announcement at the SCUDEM site that it's available, and your names will be famous forever as being helpful to all the others. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Winkel.
Okay, thank you, and take care and be well.
Okay.
All right, and thank you, Anthony.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.